August that the virus had run its course. But that earlier period was just a calm before the storm. And in late August of 1918, a mutated strain of the Spanish flu virus had emerged that was way more deadlier than the first wave. From September through November of 1918, the death rate from the Spanish flu skyrocketed. In the United States alone, 195,000 Americans died from the Spanish flu in just the month of October. The virus infected 500 million people worldwide and killed an estimated 20 to 50 million victims. Now, I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen, but I'm saying I would be ready for it and not moving with the mindset of clear skies ahead. Like this Washington Post article alludes, this virus is coming back, and there will be more restrictions and safeguards in place than we saw during the first wave. What we went through over the past few months is just a sneak preview of what is to come. Everyone should be in preparation mode, and just because there are many people that reject the usage of common sense and desire to live in ignorance more than reality, it does not mean that you should do so. You should understand some of the things that have come in place and understand how it will be implemented in your life in the near future. You should definitely understand the contact tracing applications that are being set up with our mobile devices. There are mobile applications that can enable digital contact tracing on a large scale. South Korea, Singapore, Australia, and of course China have already implemented this. Britain is right now working on the implementation of this in their country. Tech giants Apple and Google have pledged to work together to bring this contact tracing ability to the masses around the world. Here's a press release from Apple put out April 10th of this year, 2020. Across the world, governments and health authorities are working together to find solutions to the COVID-19 pandemic, to protect people and get society back up and running. Software developers are contributing by crafting technical tools to help combat the virus and save lives. In the spirit of collaboration, Google and Apple are announcing a joint effort to enable the use of Bluetooth technology to help governments and health agencies reduce the spread of the virus, with user privacy and security central to the design. Since COVID-19 can be transmitted through close proximity to affected individuals, public health officials have identified contact tracing as a valuable tool to help contain its spread. A number of leading public health authorities, universities, and NGOs around the world have been doing important work to develop opt-in contact tracing technology. To further this cause, Apple and Google will be launching a comprehensive solution that includes application programming interfaces, APIs, and operating system level technology to assist in enabling contact tracing. Given the urgent need, the plan is to implement the solution in 2 steps while maintaining strong protection around user privacy. First, in May, both companies will release APIs that enable interoperability between Android and iOS devices using apps from public health authorities. These official apps will be available for users to download via their respective app stores. Second, in the coming months, Apple and Google will work to enable a broader Bluetooth-based contact tracing platform by building this functionality into the underlying platforms. This is a more robust solution than an API and would allow more individuals to participate if they choose to opt in, as well as enable interaction with the broader ecosystem of apps and government health authorities. Privacy, transparency, and consent are of utmost importance in this effort, and we look forward to building this functionality in consultation with interested stakeholders. We will openly publish information about our work for others to analyze. So you should understand what this all means. Basically, Apple and Google will provide programming in their mobile devices that assists with contact tracing. Have you noticed that sometimes when you download an app on your phone, it asks you if you want to allow it to use Bluetooth? Apps that should have nothing to do with Bluetooth. That's because Bluetooth isn't just allowing your devices to communicate with each other, it's allowing your device to communicate with other people's devices as well. So basically, as you move throughout society, your device will send signals to other people's devices so that if you came in contact with someone that was diagnosed with the virus, your phone would send you an alert and tell you that you need to self-quarantine. The applications also will be able to record where you are and the people that you've been around and in contact with. Just like that clip from Contagion when the doctor was asking Matt Damon's character all those questions.
contact with livestock in any way. Did you keep any pets at home?
No.
Did she mention seeing anyone who was sick? Anyone on a plane?
No.
That was a personal form of contact tracing. Now our devices will do the jobs that these doctors used to, without us even thinking about it. What I provided was an oversimplification of a very complicated system, but it's something that you have to know and understand. It's already been implemented in other countries around the world, and if you just look into what China has been doing, it's very easy to see exactly how far this can actually go and what it may mean for your life. But really, what should it mean to you? I'm certain that people that are gripped with fear by this virus may look at this technology as a good thing. But all this is allowing technology to have more access into our lives. We are letting apps know too much about our lives, where we are, and who we are around, and from this, they are now implementing it into how they will govern our lives. So as you go out and engage in society, it's quite possible that you come around people that have been infected with the virus, and then your phone tells you that you need to self-quarantine.
China goes even further, assigning citizens a colour-coded level based on their health condition and travel history, which determines whether they're allowed into malls or public transport, for examples. South Korea's sharing previous movements of COVID-19 patients, which has led to residents being outed for non-COVID-19 related reasons and public shaming. Israel has an app that warns users if they've crossed paths with an infected patient, and Taiwan has introduced a digital fence using smartphone data to enforce quarantines. All novel ideas which perhaps in ordinary times would come under heavier scrutiny where rights issues are concerned. Yvonne Yong, ABC News.
And that's scary by itself, but we haven't even thought about what the government enforcement looks like. Understand that the government can force you into quarantine. If you live in a country like China, this statement probably isn't something that shocks you. But here in the United States, most people living here do not completely have this understanding. And if it is able to happen here in the United States, wherever you live around the world, it can happen there too. On the CDC website, you can see clearly that federal isolation and quarantine are authorized for these communicable diseases, and they have listed severe acute respiratory syndromes and flu that can cause a pandemic. This is COVID-19. Large-scale isolation and quarantine was last enforced during the influenza, Spanish flu pandemic in 1918 to 1919. In recent history, only a few public health events have prompted a federal isolation or quarantine orders. According to the United States Code, Title 42, Sections 264 to 272, any person who violates any regulation prescribed under Sections 264 to 266 of this title, or who enters or departs from the limits of any quarantine station, ground, or anchorage in disregard of quarantine rules and regulations, or without permission of the quarantine officer in charge, shall be punished by a fine of not more than $1,000 or by imprisonment for not more than 1 year, or both. They can imprison you. During the first wave, Trump gave the states the authority to manage the pandemic. But when the second wave comes, you should expect that the federal government will take a much bigger hand in things. They just recently introduced a bill in the House called H.R. 6666. You really can't make this stuff up. This bill lacks a lot of details, but its summarized purpose is to authorize the Secretary of Health and Human Services to award grants to eligible entities to conduct diagnostic testing for COVID-19 and related activities such as contact tracing through mobile health units and, as necessary, at individuals' residences and for other purposes. So they would be giving money to eligible entities, whoever that would mean, to conduct testing and contact tracing through mobile health units, very much like I just explained with the mobile applications. They also will be allowed to go to our residences according to this bill. Now, mind you, this bill has not passed, and not much information is given as to how this would even look. But this needs to be in your mindset that they are even suggesting legislation like this. By the number of the bill, the devil is obviously in the details. In my expectations, I am preparing for the likelihood of this pandemic resembling the Spanish flu as far as the narrative goes. So as restrictions are easing up and people are becoming more relaxed in their expectations, I will continue to keep my eyes open and make sure that I am preparing. But if you are now feeling relieved that restrictions are being lifted, I'm not trying to rain on your parade, but I am making this to stress the importance of standing